Hello, and welcome to the DM's Book Club, a podcast where we read about some Dungeons and Dragons and how we might implement it in our role-playing campaigns. As it always is now improvise. Hello again.
Hello, now improvise.
Now improvise. My name is Now Improvise. With me, as always, for our weekly episodes on Dragon's Duel is my wonderful co-host, Hamilton. Hamilton, how are you, my friend?
Hi, yes, I'm good. How are you?
I am good. I know we always start like, how are you? How are you? And we always say the British like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Even though we spent 45 minutes discussing how good we were on podcast. But no one needs to hear that, so that's all good. That's all good.
Generally, I'm okay. In the sort of, on that level, I'm okay. There's, there's ups and downs within that, but I'm on a level okay.
Yeah. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Yeah. Well, we have a very interesting topic to talk about this week, which you suggested, and I hadn't realised how close this was to launching again. So, do you want to introduce the topic we've got today, Hamilton?
Well, yeah, it says for the people listening, they don't know this yet, but they might do because it comes up on the podcast thing. But it is the Critical Role campaign special. Ooh. And why are we doing it today? Well, because on Twitch, if you're watching this live on Twitch, you will know that in about 3 hours' time, Critical Role Campaign 3 will be starting. So,
yes.
By the way, if you've come along, why don't you just enjoy? We'll talk about what happened and all these campaign guides they talk about, ready for you to have a bit of tea and then watch the Campaign 3.
Or, like, if you're going to be like us, go to bed and then catch you up on next week.
Yeah. When you listen, or listen to this podcast and then go and listen to the podcast because it's out a week later.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess we'll start with the most important thing. Hamilton, what is Critical Role? I have been living under a rock for the last 5 years and I'm still into D&D. What is Critical Role?
What is Critical? Okay, if you don't know, Critical Role is an actual play live stream now and as well podcast. I think it's as popular on either. It's the most popular Twitch channel, the most profitable Twitch channel we've found out recently.
We've found recently,
We just found out recently, but not surprisingly because it's a very well put together campaign. Firstly, part of Geek and Sundry. When they started, it was a home campaign run by Matthew Mercer, who is the DM, with some fantastic voice actor talent, as he is himself, as the character players. If you don't know them, I could say all their names, but I don't want to waste too much time.
No, but what's interesting is that you will have definitely heard all of the players, and they're all friends and stuff, but they've all been in video games you have played. Yes. So the I think the most prolific one, and I'm sure people won't mind me saying this, is Laura Bailey, who is in bloody everything.
Every video game.
And once you've watched a couple of episodes or a season or two of Critical Role, and then you start playing video games, you're like, bloody hell, they've been here all this time.
And
Hello, Laura.
You actually hear Marisha quite a lot as well, I've noticed.
Marisha, Liam as well.
Yeah,
Liam O'Brien.
Well, Liam, we all know more from. I've watched Naruto, but I watched Naruto in Japanese because I want with the subtitles because I know some Japanese, so I like to pretend I'm learning more Japanese by watching it. So, but I do know he does Gaara from the Naruto from them, and then Travis Willingham, you'll know from if you've played Batman the Telltale series.
Yep, along with Laura Bailey as well.
But along with Bailey as well, exactly. But she's in everything, as we said. But then
she's
Travis
in everything, so just assume Laura is in everything with these things as well.
Yeah, exactly. And then Sam Riegel, who's famous more on the advertising and the theatre, because he was part of Hamilton on the stage. My namesake, and then
Ashley Johnson,
and then last but not least, my point, Ashley Johnson, you will know from being saved by Captain America in the first Avengers.
And The Last of Us as well, as Ellie in The Last of Us, which is a side recommendation: play The Last of Us and play The Last of Us Part 2.
Oh my gosh, yes!
And then cry.
Oh my gosh, I could talk about that for another 4 hours.
We'll have to talk about that on a separate podcast to this. But yeah, so essentially, all these friends obviously knew each other through the industry and just got going on. I believe it was a birthday present to Liam. That they just let's play a game of Pathfinder, and then it just went from there, and all these other people came in, and then they had a team of 8, 9 at the beginning, I think, and then it gone down to 8 and 7, and they've just for the last 5 years played D&D in front of
thousands. I mean, yeah, because they started on Geek and Sundry, which I mean is beneficial, I remember watching when I first watched the first campaign, it rose so dramatically. It was like, by episode 30, it's like trying to get to 10,000 followers. And then the next minute, it was just like numbers that were just incredible. And it was a bit of it was literally I don't know, it hit the zeitgeist, didn't it? The right time of just when everyone was starting to, just D&D was becoming part of the world again. But I don't want to say takes away from anything from it, because it is so well put together, and Matt Mercer is just a great storyteller, and they are all amazing actors, and so it's not surprising it was a special sauce at the right time, sort of thing.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting about Critical Role is that I remember when it first came out, it was like the first 20 episodes in, and as you're saying, it had its popularity, but it was just, at the time, we hadn't really seen D&D or any streamed games of any RPGs, I would say, to that level of just like, even like Exandria just streaming live, and it was like 2 hours or whatever, and then like an hour and a half for like Q&As and promoting stuff. And then since then, I think Twitch got bigger, YouTube got better, you know, like you said, all these sort of networks sort of exploded, because it was like, we can really easily stream live on the internet.
Exactly.
And it was just, and I think it definitely, with help with that, it obviously inspired loads of other streams, so obviously High Rollers, the sort of UK equivalent, I would say, although there's obviously, I appreciate, we will have to do this sort of disclaimer. Critical Role is great. That's how I certainly got into D&D. I'm sure that's how you have been influenced as well, Hamilton. But obviously, it's not everyone's cup of tea. There are billions of other streams like that. Obviously, we both own our own sort of podcasts that do actual plays of different RPGs and stuff. So this might not be for you, but I think we have to acknowledge that without Critical Role, I don't think D&D or even RPGs have been run live on Twitch would have the same effect as it does now.
100%. I think as I said, it was one of the critical parts of the puzzle. Like, as I said, the other one is sort of Stranger Things. I always mention, you know, them playing D&D and that. Then I'm trying to think. I can't think of the others off the top of my head. But that same time where it just started to just kick off, and they were there and doing it really well. And as you said, all the other sort of pieces of the puzzle, like streaming to Twitch becoming so popular, internet becoming more available for everyone to do that as well, and so and obviously it also helps in a way once you see some high profile people who maybe you don't see on camera. Again, these are mostly voice actors, apart from Ashley Johnson, who does have a quite prolific TV career and film career now. Then they're like, hey, we're going to invite our friends on who also enjoy D&D. And then you suddenly hear stuff like Vin Diesel is massively into D&D. Yes. And you're like, Vin Diesel? Yes, exactly.
And you hear like bands who go on tour and then they have their own D&D sessions after the show and stuff like that. And you're thinking, it's that sort of turning point where D&D became cool again. And again, quotation marks there. But it's like, these famous people are very happily saying, oh yeah, I like playing a wizard in my off time. Yeah. And you think, but you're so bloody cool.
Yeah.
Oh, and I didn't. That's the thing. I think suddenly realizing that these people are well-rounded. They like good storytelling. They like immersive experiences and having fun with their friends. It just was just a huge human side to it, and I think that's again another factor into that popularity. So
100%. You didn't have to say. I mean, it's still there's some people have to go. I play D&D. You know, what's your podcast about? It's about D&D, and like you do that sort of face.
What does RPG mean?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like, does it mean a grenade launcher?
Yeah, exactly. It's very true.
We just throw story bombs at each other.
Well, yeah, exactly. But it became much more like, I'm playing D&D. Oh, so do I. And it's just in parlance, and you just feel. It's great. I mean, it's great, and the whole Twitter and everything like that has also just helped that community be built, and you feel like you can connect with all these other great people that also love this crazy little game.
Yeah, and you have to shout out to the. And I'm going to say critter community. I will say I hate the word critter. It's like the same reason I don't really like Trekkie, even though I am a big fan of Star Trek.
Yeah.
There's something about it. I'm just like, it feels very demeaning and debasing to me. But some people really embrace it. So again, it's each to their own fun. But the critter community is very loving, and I must say the artwork that people put out there is incredible. And I know when campaign 2 was sort of wrapping up, I had to because I wasn't caught up to date, I had to put spoiler tags on all my Twitter feeds, because obviously these beautiful art will come up and it was spoilers for this episode, and you're like, it's beautiful, but damn you, story.
Yes, exactly. I know. You just I got it. Yeah, you just had. Well, that was the problem being a podcast person. I mean, I did watch the last one a bit as a bit live, but then it was too late, and then in the night, 'cause it went on for hours. But that week afterwards, I was like, just don't look at anything. Just can't look at the internet. You know, it's just because it's all there. But
Yeah, and that's the other thing to note as well, just before we move on, is that Critical Role, again, because it's a storytelling thing, it is weekly. There are 4 to 5 hour episodes. I think one of the previous episodes in the second series was nearly 7.5 hours long because they pre-recorded it. I think the other thing is to say, like, obviously, if you love a show and you want to catch up and stuff like that, then that's your whole life. But I did go on to emphasize there are so many other shows out there, and I've got a few recommendations after we finish this thing. But like,
oh yes,
I think the interesting about Critical Role is that having been there since from the beginning, not at all, but having watched quite along the way, that's been very helpful. But I can imagine you're coming up to season 3 now. You're, maybe I should watch season 1 and 2. There's like over 200 episodes, and most of them are 4 to 5 hours long, and certainly the early ones aren't as good quality or high quality because it's obviously back in the days when they were just sorting out streaming. Don't panic is the answer. I mean, obviously there's Wikipedia guides. They've
recaps
done really good
as well. Recaps, and
with Danny Carr,
If I was going to say, like, if you want to get really into it and you think I want to watch all of it, I would even suggest, like, unless you are super dedicated and you've got the time and you want to do it, I would say skip everything until they get out of the Underdark in the first season. I would just say, look, because that was halfway through a sort of storyline. It was a nice way to introduce characters, and it was a great final battle. But I could say, look, you could just get the catch up to that first arc, start at the second arc when they go on the Briarwoods arc, basically, and just dive straight in there. And then if you want to come back and do that first bit again because you want to later, do it. But I started listening to season 1, and I did do it from the beginning, and I went through the whole Craghammer bit. But when I got to the Briarwoods, I was like, okay. And here we go.
We'll quickly put spoilers on it just in case, but I will say that Briarwood arc, so I think that's like from episode 20 onwards, and I will actually come to it, I think, because you are going to suggest doing a Hero's Chronicle and probably the prophecy stuff as well that is in the second book. The idea of being able to tie a player's backstory so beautifully in a campaign, and so Percy de Rolo's arc in that Briarwood arc it's at the time, and I was so tense because I'd never seen anything like that, and I when you watch it back and you see like a little drop of a name here and you're like, that's in that person's backstory, and they've noticed and you just see the faces go
I mean, we didn't even mention Taliesin Jaffe at the beginning. I mean
a
named
very
after
underrated player.
I think he is. I don't know, sometimes I felt through, particularly as actually all the characters he's played, but Percy and Caduceus, but I thought were his best of them. I think Molly was great, but I think he hadn't got enough time to get into it. But Percy was just some of the soliloquies he even had as him was just incredible, and like the energy in that whole arc was I mean, that's the thing. I play D&D. I don't play that D&D. Like I accept that it would take a lot for me to even scratch at that surface. I don't know. I'd love to think I could try, but I don't think I could. You know, I like to think I could, but I don't think
absolutely.
I could.
I think it is a testament, and no shame on any of the players because obviously they are amazing voice actors. But I think the stark difference between Taliesin Jaffe's characters, and even in the one shots as well, which they've done a few of, which I again can highly recommend if you're just interested in a little like to taste of what the different styles are. They are so different, but so well thought out and clever. And I just think, like, out of all of them, Taliesin is the quieter one, but is one to watch. So I completely agree. I think I do have a soft spot for Sam Riegel because he always makes me laugh. But it's Sam Riegel, so it can't be that.
Well, no, but like I see. This is the thing. Like when I've done this conversation with people, and I said, "Who's your favourite?" Like I'd be like, I'd start saying one, and they go "pup," and then I'd say the other one, and they go "pup," and then by the time I've just gone through everyone. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think Keyleth was one of my favourite characters. I thought the way that their growth
and stuff,
the growth of that character, the way that Marisha played the sort of growth. I mean, we're just turning this to a critical role.
No, but we will get onto it. But essentially, too long. I think it is good. It's very good in the sense of like if you want to see storytelling and something that affects players. And like it's something that you go, I want to come back next week, and even from that first sort of mini arc where they get to Craghammer and stuff, even that first episode, everyone has their personality. It's all sort of set up, so it is something interesting. And the same with the second series as well, which is it takes place on a completely different continent and a different different timeline, different things. Yep. With that in mind, let's talk about.
Let's go have a look.
Let's go have a look. So we are sort of taking bits and pieces from 2 different books, and I have them here. So the first one is Tal'Dorei Campaign Setting, which is the first one that came out.
Transition, so you can see a front cover picture. Look at that.
Woo-hoo. It's amazing. So this is by Green Ronin Publishing, and interestingly enough, and I'm sure you knew this, so it's written obviously by Matthew Mercer, but with also another person called James Hake, rhymes with cake, who was one of the lead writers on D&D Beyond. He wrote some of the Encounters of the Weeks and sort of set that up.
Yes, that's right. Yes, I did know. I've seen his name on there in places. That's
So some really good writing. And then obviously the other one, which people may be more aware of, or not more famous, but more intrigued of, is Explorer's Guide to Wildemount, which was published by Wizards of the Coast fairly recently. So I guess Hamilton, with both of these books, what would you say are the obvious main difference for them, apart from different titles, obviously?
I think, actually, I don't know. I felt they were pretty similar. Personally, I thought they had a very similar format. The chapters were pretty much similarly labelled. What they all come with is sort of deep lore beginning, and then a middle bit of lots of class options and character options and additional monsters and all that sort of stuff, as well as the mind and magic of Matthew Mercer giving you something to add to that beyond what you get from your average D&D. So he gives you options for your normal D&D, and then each of them has something that's a little tidbit extra. So, like the Tal'Dorei one has the sort of the campaign rules and the vestiges as well on top of, and then the Wildemount has this heroic backstory. Oh, and also the resurrection as well as in Tal'Dorei. So there's sort of little bits that they've created, homebrew rules that I think could be the benefit. So I think they're the same. What do you think? Do you think they're the same? Similar?
They are. I think the more obvious thing was that they're about 2 different continents. That's what I was going to think. No. But it's very important. I think this is very important. So when you look at them, a lot of people might go, oh my god, campaign settings, hooray, but also, oh my god, there's a lot of lore. But you're right, I think a lot of the lore is duplicated. Essentially, with this so the whole world is called Exandria, and they have lots of different continents. So the first continent, which Series 1 takes place in, is Tal'Dorei, which is a beautiful sort of if you imagine almost like a...
I can show a picture.
Oh, yes. Yes, if you show a picture. I'm just trying to make what's the... because we were doing French before counting in. The fleur de lis. Fleur de lis. It's a little bit like the fleur de lis.
It is like a fleur de lis. I think it's right at the back, isn't it? It's going to be
right at the back. And annoyingly, I think it's going to be right at the back.
Get to it.
I will say the physical copies come with amazing maps, and I'm always a big fan of maps. At some point, I'm going to take it out. There you go. Yeah, so it's sort of spread out a little bit. And for me, again, and I will say this, it's been a long time since I've listened to Critical Role Season 1. But obviously you've got sort of Imon, which is sort of the main capital city. You've got Whitestone, which we've sort of talked about briefly. That's sort of the main area where the Briarwoods is in. And you've got all Craghammer's up to the left. Yeah,
Craghammer here. Imon's down there. I didn't.
It's up there. You go. and all of this stuff is, again, they talk the way they travel across and all that sort of thing. So it's all very different. So this is all sort of one continent takes place in. Whereas in Explorer's Guide to Wildemount.
I'll help you there.
Wow! Look, this is a separate continent, and you can see on this map as well. That is the edge on the left-hand side. That is the edge of Tal'Dorei. So Tal'Dorei is off to the left, and
it pretty much touches because they even talk in Campaign 1. There's the whole arc of the Briarwood starts with them talking about building a bridge between the two. Just a little bit of lore dump.
And I think they've it's been sundered. Like it was being completed and was sundered, which reminds me of there's a train line in Fife in Scotland where similar sort of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what's different about Wildemount, which I think again, I say this, I kind of lost this a little bit in season 2, I will say, but the main sort of themes about Wildemount is that war is happening. There's two sort of empires, the Dwendalian Empire and the Kryn Dynasty, almost sort of together, and it's been almost like a Cold War for ages, and each of them had their own ideals and stuff, and then now when the book has come out, it's full-blown war. And what I found really interesting, maybe compared to the Tal'Dorei campaign, is like, okay, this is definitely a big theme of Wildemount. You know, there are guards, there are skirmishes and stuff like that. How much of this do you want in your campaign? Do you want war to be a big thing, so it's right at the front? Is it something in the background, or not at all? And it said it's kind of important to mention this because actions are what your players do. And what happens in the second campaign, because this says like up to episode 50 is when it's canon. And then after that, it goes off into its own thing. So obviously, anything you do is obviously canon in your own world and stuff. But it's just saying, like, you can influence the outcome of a war, depending on how you're doing it. And then it went on to saying, like, okay, so if your players really want to have this war element at the front of the campaigns, once you've spoken to them about it, the issue is, if you join the army, there's lots of orders, and nobody likes taking orders. So it talked about...
Definitely not player characters.
No, exactly. But it talked about how do you make it so that war is a part of it, and it's interesting to the players, and you're not being bossed around, and you're not being railroaded and stuff. And it gave the really cool example of being in a siege, if you're under attack. So in my head, I was thinking like Helm's Deep, you have to survive. And I was sort of talking to you about it, this idea is that instead of having just a huge battle with loads of things happening, it is like encounter after encounter, almost like a dungeon crawl. So you are here, people are streaming in from a broken wall on the right, but you can also see the big boss leader of this particular wave is going off towards where the people are hiding in the cellars. Which one do you deal with? And then using that to sort of break it down completely so that they feel like they're in the moment, but they're not being overwhelmed by giant forces per se, and just take it like that. And I thought that was a really cool idea of dealing with war and dealing with battles like that.
I feel that reminds me when you said that, and I didn't say it at the time, it's like old-fashioned games where they used to do QTEs, and then you QTE into a little, like a bit like a JRPG. So you'd have a little QTE. So you go like skill check to a point, choose which way you go, sort of thing. Skill check, have an encounter, and then you then sort of do that. Sort of that's how I kind of imagined it working. I think a bit like Shenmue used to do that game. A little bit those two QTEs, but yeah, I can really. I think that works really well, and I think you can. I think the other side of it, as well as the political side you could go down, which is the this is a war, but war means there's envoys and there's getting things across borders. There's trying to rationing becomes an issue, so it's like trying to smuggling becomes more of a thing. There's lots of like really interesting getting things across borders and stuff like that, which happens in the campaign, but you could be a bigger part of if you wanted to.
That's an interesting way of putting it. Like, again, I guess that's more like, rather than being at the forefront, like, oh, you are having to fight war, it's in the background, but yeah, to get across the border. So if you're trying to escape the Kryn Dynasty away from your house, or however you pronounce it. Again, I'm very bad at pronouncing these names. How do you get out? And I think the other thing that's interesting, so like I said, you've got the Kryn Dynasty and the Dwendalian Empire, who are sort of against each other. On the left, which you've got there on that map, I don't know if it's up just now, is the Menagerie Coast.
Yes.
Which is the main way the Dwendalian Empire gets trade in, because it's landlocked. So you're having to deal with trade and this idea that certainly the Menagerie Coast, can't say that when you're drunk. It's all these port towns, and each one of them has a marquise, and it's just again really interesting. I love
that. It's such a lovely idea. It's such when that's the one that when they started in that, I was thinking, because second campaign it's always difficult. You always think like, oh, am I gonna get into this as much as the first one? The minute they hit Nicodranus and they started talking about it, I was like, yeah, I'm here. I'm on holiday now.
I love it. Yeah.
It was just perfect. That's where I really fell in love with that place, this setting.
And as you sort of mentioned, this idea of smuggling, there's in the Menagerie Coast, there's the Revelry pirates as well. So there's this idea of smuggling and stuff like that as well. So yeah, you could easily if you're the DM and you talk to your players and like, we don't want to focus on this huge heavy conflict, we want to have something nice. Well, pirates, customs.
Darktoe. I mean, how cool is Darktoe?
Yes.
So Darktoe, if people don't know, is like is the pirate island where there's a pirate king who rules over this sort of free port, like what's it called? What was the place? The famous. It's not Libertaria, is it?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just thinking of that place in Pirates of the Caribbean. They all go to.
Well, it's like that. But if you played Uncharted 4, they try and fight in Uncharted 4.
Oh, of course they do. Yes.
I think it's called Libertalia.
Libertalia.
Yes, it's basically inspired by that and the sort of like Freetown sort of.
I'd completely forgot about that. Darktoe. Of course, because they go back several times. Because like, we bloody love this place. We want to go, but it's also dangerous. Until they got banned. Exactly. So there's like
spoilers.
Spoilers. But so both books. Obviously, we will say this. Like the first part of both books are very heavy in lore, and obviously there's this huge thing about how Exandria came to be. This idea there's a huge battle with the gods and this against the world itself, and there's some amazing imagery talking about like the gods, the prime deities created their children, and here were the first children were the elves and the dwarves and the humans, and more races followed, but the earth rebelled. And was it the deities?
The elementals,
the primordials, and this idea that they were saddened to see their children dashed across the rocks, and you're like, whoa, what a beautiful way of describing it. And then this idea, the schism between the gods, saying, well, we should just start anew, and then this idea of the betrayer gods who went to join the primordials, and it was just again, it's very classic, like good versus evil, and then setting up the pantheon as well, and all that sort of thing, and then this huge battle where then I'm going to get this one. This is the Age of Arcanum, where the children of the worlds were like, please help us. The betrayer gods have been released from their prisons and they're going to come and kill us. And so the prime deities were like, okay. And so they have these huge battles on Wildemount, and that's where your house is such a scarred landscape, because that's where the most of the damage was taken. And I just, again, descriptions like that, like I know, like I've done a very potted history there, but it's just it was interesting to read. There's a lot of it, and obviously it goes into lots of detail about stuff, but it's nice to if you've got an idea in your head and you're like, here's a huge expanse, and you think, well, what happened here to make it like sparse, or make it, why is it so luscious here, and stuff like that. So I think it's definitely an interesting story, and it definitely influences the rest of the world. So maybe starting with a pantheon of sorts, or even just like, here's a story of creation, good versus evil. It's a good place to start. Easy starting point.
No, it is, and it's got that classic, that Age of Arcanum sort of people pushing their luck too far. So they've got the whole reason they're unlocked is because people trying to understand the secrets. So they go and delve into darker and dungeon magic. It's that sort of classic. There's so many settings like that. I mean, the Wheel of Time has had the sort of the age before was a high age of where I think in that setting, in that book, it was always talked about where it was not based on capitalism. It was based on sort of the quality of your work and the sort of like your intellect and all this sort of stuff, and about how well you could do magics and create interesting things, that sort of thing. And then everyone starts to get a little bit too much, delving into a bit greedy with it, and starts playing with magics they shouldn't, and then it all blows up.
But what's interesting, again, it talks about, well, the prime deities were saddened by this, but realised and understood that the children needed to do this, and you're like, whoa, because you think, because that's this greed and trying to do it. Like they talked about very briefly, like a paragraph or so, about a mortal felling the god of death and taking their place in the pantheon. And I assume, and I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong, is this the Raven Queen? I assume that must be who it is. And you just think to yourself, like, that's such a big deal, this person did, and you think, so surely someone must step in, because now they're messing with the fabric, the weave itself, and then of course, then some idiot, some bloody know-it-all was like, I'm just gonna open the prisons and let the betrayer gods back.
Let's see what happens. This will work.
So anyway, we won't dwell too much more on it, but it is, I think, if a good bedtime read. There's a lot of it, so just take 100%. Your time with it. So.
Yeah, no, it really is, and the whole, it's obviously well written. It was really interesting. The whole, this is just some of the deity, pictures they have of them. I'll just sort of show them, but
the Dawn Father, hooray!
Yeah, it was so great the way that Matt Mercer talked about at the beginning, saying that, you know, this book has forced me to sort of, because he obviously had ideas about it and had this probably as some scribbled notes as old D&D campaigns are, but forcing it into this and actually giving those orders actually helps like develop even further and give much more breadth to it, and it is beautifully put together, and there's some really lovely just bits of information, and there's always someone, there's like, I'll just show one here. So for the Dawnfather, for example, it gives you the alignment, just the domains that he talks about. It gives you a lovely little bit of information, and then gives you a holy day, which was something we talked about. I liked from next week we talk about on the Ghost Walk campaign.
Whoops.
Yeah, just
spoiler for next week.
Spoiler for next week, Ghost Walk. And then some little commandments of it, and it's just a nice little, here's a paragraph. And if someone isn't going to be running this campaign but wants to be running any campaign and is just looking for inspiration for a deity and how to write a deity, these are really good. It's not a lot of work. It's just, here's a really simple way to just get that across, and it's very well put together. So
you know what, I'd completely forgotten about the calendar and time, because I did make a note of that.
11 months? Come on, Matt, what are you playing at?
I know, I was like, what are you doing?
What's that about? That's just trying to be different, right?
I mean, I know, but what I did quite like, certainly in Explorer's Guide to Wildemount, is that they have like the holidays for each month.
Yes.
And again, this goes back into like, if you dive in deep to the lore, so the Dwendalian Empire, they've outlawed certain gods that they don't deem as important, or ghosts. Most of them. Yeah. So obviously, if those holidays aren't holidays, only certain approved holidays. And again, if you read into it, there are definitely obviously similarities to certain countries, perhaps, or certain historical countries who have this ideal. And I think it's interesting. It's like these holidays aren't seen around there, and or certain insignia or symbols, they will be frowned upon if you show them in the Dwendalian Empire. So stuff like that to take into consideration. If you're like, I am a follower of this particular this particular deity, it's like, okay, I have to remember where that comes in as well. And look at that, the Ruiner.
I know. They're actually, I think some of the evil ones have got better symbols, but they
do. Oh no, this is true. Villains dress better.
That's the thing. The villains always dress better.
They have the best they have the best makeup. They have the best outfits. No wonder.
I mean, Maleficent is so much cooler than
Maleficent.
Loki,
Hela in the Marvel films.
Yes. Yes, the Crown.
The Crown. You're just like, but I mean, like, I'm joining her. She knows what she's doing.
It's interesting. They're very put together, and actually all of the betrayer gods are actually, some of them you'll recognise from your classic, like the Lord of Hells and stuff like that. But the Chained Oblivion I think is similar to I can't remember the name off the top of my head now, but the sort of the hunger, whatever it is the hunger.
Oh yeah, because it's just ongoing. I remember that from the Chained Oblivion.
But the Cloaked Sun and the Crawling King, which does turn up in Wildemount, actually is very, very interesting.
Horrible. Ugh.
And
that's the other thing to mention as well. So the betrayer gods, before they were sort of sealed away along with the prime deities after the calamity behind the veil, they left certain creations left behind. So Uk'otoa, one of the lesser gods who appears in campaign 2, is connected to this thing. And there's a very interesting bit about that as well. This idea is like the big baddie could literally be a lesser god that you've just created, but it has some connection to this pantheon and stuff. And it's very easy stuff, and there's again lots of inspiration for that. But Uk'otoa is your typical Lovecraftian. Something's got too many eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
Whoopsie.
Yeah,
that's more than 8.
That's enough. That's enough now. Ooh. Yeah. So that you're getting them mixed up. Uk'otoa is the serpent, the big serpent in the deep, and then it's it's now you've said that, it's gone right up my head. The Nonagon. The Nonagon.
There you go. The Nonagon. Again, you might need to know about that before the end of season 2. But
exactly. Don't worry about it.
A little thing. Don't worry about it. Yes. So again, and then as you sort of said, after that you've got obviously the different kinds of races.
It's very much stuff I think generally it just gives you how that fits into the campaign. that you would have. I think the only thing I know that's different really that I picked up clearly was the sort of Dragonborn with the two types, the Draconians and Ravenites, which is sort of brought up in the series very briefly and actually not very much dealt with.
No, and again, I obviously I don't want to go into too much sort of that because I know obviously that particular person left.
Exactly, so that's probably why. So everyone knows that. If they want to find that story out, they can find out.
Yeah, you can find that from because that's not our place to say. But I will say, I do hope we do have more Dragonborn. I think my wish for season 3, and I'm sure we'll come into like predictions and stuff in a bit. But I do hope there's more Dragonborn, and I hope there's more dwarves actually.
Yes,
because there's not been a main cast dwarf role. We've had obviously halflings, we've had gnomes.
There was in the Exandria Unlimited, which was played by Matthew Mercer,
because obviously he's like, I want a bloody dwarf.
I want a bloody dwarf in this thing. But yes, I think that's right. And neither there's been gnomes and there's been halflings, and there's
humans, half orcs, tieflings,
half elves. There's been no full elves.
No, because Keyleth was a half elf. Yes.
Yeah, and then the twins were both half elves as well. So it'd be interesting to see if they. Oh, I've just dropped my phone. I'm back. It'd be interesting to see if they do pick up a new race, and even they played a goblin in season 2. So maybe even another classically considered evil race would be interesting to bring into it. I think. Yeah.
And they had. I'm going to say this wrong now.
Tieflings.
Tieflings. No, but I was going to say Genasi.
Genasi. They haven't had a Genasi.
But was it not in Exandria Unlimited?
Oh yes, sorry, yes. They did.
So we should also explain what Exandria Unlimited is. So obviously we've had the 2 campaigns, and then very recently, as sort of a bridge over for season 3, they had a mini series run by a very, very capable DM called Abrea, and I can't pronounce her last name, but Abrea, who's been on everything. Honestly, she's an up and coming DM, which I always think is a horrible phrase, but she has been on everything, like Dimension 20,
definitely,
DN Celebration, like the Motherlands, Into the Motherlands, I think it's called, that RPG.
Nigar.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And so I highly I've again catching up with it recently, listening to it, like she is so capable, and she deals with certain things that are thrown at her. She's like, okay, go on then. Like, and
I really liked her style. I think. And what I thought was really good is she's clearly got the same prowess as Matt Mercer at having a considered story, but also that ability, as you said, just to go. And she laughs like after 10 minutes off the first episode, they're already going the wrong way, which is great, but that's what you've got to do in D&D. But she plays with it so well, and I have more, please. Yeah, I have more.
Yeah, and I'd actually, if you watch that first episode as well, you can tell how all of them are excited but very nervous, and you can tell how nervous she is. And
it's very weird, isn't it? You just don't think they would be. And you're like,
I guess it's maybe, and we are going off topic now. I think when you're running a one-shot or anything for the first time in front of friends rather than the audience, you're very nervous. So like Ashley Johnson recently did her own one-shot, which is all sci-fi themed. She was very nervous. I know she's, again, maybe a little bit more on the anxious side as a player, but I was like, oh, Ashley, you're doing really well. I was really like, oh no, you're doing great.
I haven't seen that one yet.
I'd recommend it. It's really good. It's a mixture of Mothership and Alien mechanics put together.
Perfect. Oh, I love it. Okay.
Yeah, but they don't say that. I had to look that up because I was like, this doesn't sound like D&D. So anyway, cool. by the side. But yeah, so watching Exandria Unlimited as well. Again, just a bit more story, and having another GM or DM go into it and do their own interpretation of stuff has been really exciting, and I hope they do more of that.
That's what I'd like to see more Abrea, and I'd like to see more. I'd like to see more just of that kind of happening, because. Well, talking about going back to the campaign guide, there is a lot of lore here. There's a lot of great things. I think there's, as we said, that we could skip through the factions. There's very interesting factions, and I think that but I think and they have lots of awesome.
Whitestone.
Yeah, I know Whitestone. I know. Yeah, it means so much. Sundry. Hey, what's up?
Hey, Sundry. Again, makes no sense to anyone who's not watched it. So apologies, everyone. But yes, hey, Sundry.
And who's on the Council of Tal'Dorei is another inside joke. But I think they're all worth reading about, and that you can take them and add them to your campaign. But the thing that's really great and there's the thing, but is the locations in both the books have a very detailed set of locations with, you can see here, let's just take this one. It gives you a population. It gives you, this is a very small one, place, but it gives you a little bit of information as well as an adventure to run. Every single one's got an adventure or two, and so if you're just running any campaign, because there's such a wealth of, in both of them, types of location, mixtures of peoples and climate and government and all of those and reasons for being. There's the one that's like the one I was reading, I've forgotten the name of it now, which is the old mining town which got turned into a casino because it had so the whole story of it is there was veins of gold, there was a gold rush, it became very wealthy, and then they ran out and they were digging, trying to get more, and until it just fell apart. Then someone came along and said, let's build a casino here, and then now it's this sort of whole new structure based around sort of Las Vegas on a mountain.
I love that. I missed that one completely. It reminds me also, I'm sure you remember years ago they had that idea of building, they were going to build the super casino in Blackpool.
Yes. And
then it never went through. I remember that day because
we were going to build one in Bath as well.
Were they?
Yeah, they were. They were going to do them all over the shop. It was their big money-making scheme, wasn't it? So
of course it was. It was funny because we thought it was all going to go to Manchester, and then like no, Blackpool because they need jobs, and then it never happened because obviously they're like gambling's probably not good.
Oh dear.
But I love that. It's a cool concept. Yeah. So again in Explorer's Guide to Wildemount, I will get that name right correctly. There's 4 adventures in it as well, and actually, I believe, I don't know if it's still free on D&D Beyond. The Frozen Sick was free during the pandemic, so if you wanted to have a taste of it, and you didn't want to fork out for 2 different books, which do have the same materials, I will say. Obviously, Explorer's Guide has a bit more, obviously, about that particular place as Tal'Dorei has it about Tal'Dorei, but The Frozen Sick was free to just play during the pandemic, and obviously they're like, hey, everyone get into D&D, so have a look. I'm sure it's still free somewhere, but there's another 3 available in Wildemount as well that you can check out.
Yeah, I found it. It's Kimal. It's this one here.
Oh, Kimal, yeah.
The glitzy, gilded, grimy.
I think they did go there at one point, didn't they? In season 1?
I don't remember them going there. They might have done, but I don't.
It's been so long since I've done it. But how cool is that?
Yeah. Kymel. They did go to Kymel. It was very near the end, and it was near in the Chroma Conclave bit. So I don't think you really got a full weight of it. But yes.
And this is the thing as well with all the Critical Role stuff, and there's definitely bits in the Wildemount stuff as well. There's they didn't go to certain big parts of it, which have huge sections in this, and you could just read through it and go, that's cool, I wish they'd gone there. Well, they might do a special series on it, who knows?
Exactly.
Yeah. I guess before we move on to the backgrounds and the heroic chronicle, I just want to quickly talk about what's coming up in season 3.
Yes.
It's not, so Exandria is not these 2 continents, as I discovered today.
No, you should, exactly. They do go to 2 others in the actual first season as well. I completely
missed that. So again, it's been so long, but there are officially, and certainly in the Wildemount ones, there's 5 different places. So obviously we've got Tal'Dorei, we've got Wildemount, and then we've got Marquette, which has been confirmed for season 3, and then they've got the other 2 who I'm going to pronounce the names wrong, but Isilray. Assyria.
Yeah, that's it. I said it 5 times.
It's fine. You know what? This is gonna come back to haunt us when we do, introduce season 4 when that happens in 5 years' time, and also the Shattered Teeth. And what's interesting about all of these places, obviously they all have their distinct things. So obviously Wildemount is this war stuff. Marquette is mostly desert. Which I'm very excited about because actually it was
really great when they went there. I really enjoyed it. There was really good. So to remind people and to say, so they went there to. I can't remember exactly the reason they ended up there in the first place, but they definitely get involved in the. I remember they have to go there because Sam Riegel's character, this is a big spoiler, halfway through leaves the campaign and changes character. And then he comes back and says, after the Briarwood stuff and they've had their chill out time, says, you need to come to Marquette because they've found another Tesseract, Ziggurat or something. So they go to Marquette and they go on this whole adventure there. And this is where the whole Sood thing starts happening. Spice, want some spice is all there. And they get to meet Jamon al-Sood, who's the leader of Ankarel, which is who's secret.
Yep.
I can spoil more of it, but yeah, and it's got fantastic. It's got a fantastic vibe to it. It's really great, and I think I'm so excited for more of it. And then Isilra, they go to Vasselheim. They travel on the.
Yes.
In the first few episodes, actually, I think before even the Briarwoods arc, they go over to Vasselheim with
probably Kima.
Yeah, they go over Kima with the thing they've gained which they got from the first round, the Mind Players, and that's where you have Felicia Day and
Will Wheaton's character.
Will Wheaton's characters
when
turn up.
That's extended. Then they split the party. Yes, I remember.
So that whole arc is there. Yeah.
How interesting. Again, as you can tell, it's been years since I've listened to season 1.
And Vasselheim is where some of the best shopping happens. That's where I think they meet. I think that's where they meet the gunpowder Victor.
The gunpowder, of course.
Hello.
Hello. What?
What?
Yeah.
He's got one less finger every time they turn up. So
again, if you take anything away from this thing, type in Matt Mercer Victor, and then you just see
Critical Role. Search for Critical Role animated.
Yes.
Have you seen that? Yes, it's the best way to watch it. Just go Critical Role animated Victor, and then just watch all of the shopping bits, because anytime Grog and Scanlan go shopping, well, it's magic. It's poetry.
I learned from my mistakes.
Yes. You want a pig's head? And he goes. Sorry, this doesn't. If you're not involved, if you haven't watched this, and I'm very sorry.
No. But I think you know what? I completely forgot that they have those minor characters. And that's the thing. They're just there briefly. And of course, in Wildemount we have. Oh, now I've forgotten his name. But the trader in that Pumat Sol.
Sol. Hello.
Hello. Who's just super lovely. And again, it's that's the thing. Oh, hey. And then they have clones of him. And then the actual Pumat Prime is really grumpy, which I love. So, and that's the thing. I think, again, these little flavours of who these people are.
All the side characters. And that's that's the skill of Matt Mercer. It's just every single one of them. You fall in love with all of them. You care about Kima, you care about Allura, you care about
Gilmore. The actual
Gilmore.
trader in Iman.
Oh, jeez. The Rakshasa Gilmore thing. Jesus Christ.
Again, this makes no sense out of context, but
it does. I know. Sorry.
I will say though, I'd completely forgot about Tyrion Darrington.
Yeah, Tyrion Darrington. Yeah.
Who I think Dodie. So, and this was interesting. So at this time, and maybe it was when they were doing the first Unearthed Arcana coming out of Wizards of the Coast. So that's when they brought out the Artificers class, and then the Critical Role were like, we're going to take a little bit of that and try it and tweak it for its own purposes. Again, the first time we'd ever seen like that proper homebrewed stuff on a big screen. So I think that also helped out the Unearthed Arcana. But I will say, we talked about the one-shot stuff before, the Tyrion Darrington adventure, where they're all playing different characters except for Sam playing
I haven't seen that one yet either. I've left that as a treat for me at one point when I really want to go on a long journey. I don't know, and it's not too great.
No, I think you're right. Marisha outdoes herself in that one. I think that's the best. All I'm going to say is one woman marching band. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, she's so good.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway,
right.
Enough of that.
Sorry, everyone at home.
It just shows, I think, it's something like this. Obviously, we both have listened to it and stuff like that, but I'm sure other people out there have got their other streams that are like, well, you need to listen to this. And you know what? Give us those recommendations. We want to hear, what other stuff is happening. Like, you need to listen to these episodes and stuff. This arc's really good, or this character's good. I know, for me, there's, Dimension 20 with Brendan Lee Mulligan. I've not got around to that, but I've seen clips of him. And he's
Glass
brilliant.
Cannon I hear about. The other one is the Brothers. The Ethesy is called now, but I forgot what it's called.
The Adventure Zone. Yes.
Adventure Zone. I've listened to 5 episodes of that, but the quality at the beginning is quite hard to get into, and it's it's just and time. But it's there's some really great I mean, if you got some people that you think that are maybe not the big, because everyone knows those big names. If you got some, and like the high rollers. I mean, I recommend high rollers to anyone as well. I could do a whole. Where's the campaign book for high rollers, by the way?
I hope it's coming out. He has technically. Mark Humes has been writing on stuff, but who knows? Who knows what they're up to?
Come on.
I will say. Adventure Zone's very interesting. Just quickly, because I know they're super big, the McElroy brothers and stuff. What's cool about that, I think, is that it's a family doing it. The youngest brother is running their version of D&D, but they get their dad involved, and it actually is really wholesome, because obviously the dad, I don't get this or something like that, but actually it's an amazing story going through. So I do recommend certainly the first series, and then they go off and do other things, and that's fine as well. But you do have to stick with it a little bit, I think, because again, some extra NPCs there. The one I do want to shout out very quickly, because I think it's a cool concept, and it is beautifully edited together, and I think it's as big as the Adventure Zone now. So I'm very bad at promoting small people like ourselves, but Dungeons and Daddies, right?
Oh yeah.
And the concept is 4 dads have to travel into the Forgotten Realms to rescue their lost sons. And all it is that the beginning episode is that they're driving to a football game, and a portal opens, and when they wake up, their sons have disappeared. And obviously they all have their classes and stuff like that, and they're just 4 dads. There's the football dad, there's the vegan nature dad, there's the stepfather who's emotionally detached, and there's the rocker father who's like, hey guys, let's do some drugs, and they all work so well together. It's honestly, and
I've only heard great things about it. I really have. It's
beautifully done, and I will say again, I appreciate it's always shut out, but the person that's playing Ron, the stepfather, is played by a lady called Beth May, who's brilliant. Like I think she's like, I don't get D&D, but she just plays this character, and then she goes, and then recently they're coming to the end of it, and she said, I actually opened a book recently, and I discovered all these things I could do. But that's, again, D&D is your own sort of thing, but she got into D&D because she started really enjoying the story, and I was like, I guess I'm a rogue.
Really great.
I guess I could do sneak attack damage, I guess. Like.
Oh well, I mean, but that's the thing about it. It doesn't. I mean, we talked about combat slightly off air, didn't we? And it's just like D&D at the end of the day, and we've talked, and actually it's come up in all of our chats about, do you have to play D&D with all the things you've got? It's really just it's the big one, and therefore it captures more people. But what it does, and why it doesn't matter in some respects, is because this is what all RPGs do. It just gives you a reason to be there. Doesn't it? That's all it is.
A vehicle to have fun with other people. It is like a guy is like, come over and play this new board game with me. It really is almost like, hey, I wish to spend quality time with you. Can we organise this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I've had just as much fun just playing board games and making up crap about the board game whilst you're playing it, getting into your complete battles, like in Scythe. I don't know, it's not the best board game in the world, but it's a fun board game. And I've got really deep into no, I'm attacking you now. You're dead because you're dead to me, and that creates just great tension even in that. But once you allow yourselves just to act it out, what more do you want?
Well, honestly, we've talked about this off air, but at some point we'll have to do like a live episode where we just talk like not the rubbish about D&D, but the little niggles and stuff like that, but just in general, like what we enjoy about what we enjoy about what we get out of it, and probably some recommendations for the RPGs as well. But that's all by the by, I think. Yeah. So with that, shall we get on to creating a hero then? So what's this entail? Because you mentioned this, and again, I completely missed this because I was too busy going lore. So
I'm going to open this up. There's a thing called the Heroic Chronicle. So it's it basically is it works well, as I must say, with the lore that they've given on the city. So if you've got your own lore for cities, then you can obviously adjust this. But I'd say that what this does really well is brings in all that lore and actually makes it into something that you can create a really unique and role play, kibble, I guess. Role play kibble for your characters. So it's basically just replaces the backstory section with something much more deeper. So should we do some rolling? Should we make one?
You know it is. Let me grab the dice that are just
we need
out
to
of
have
reach.
a name for our character. Should we make a name for our character?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. How can we make a name for our character?
How about we...
what should we do? I was going to open a book and find a name.
Yes, perfect. I was going to say wait to the end, but actually, if you've got a book there...
I've got Frank Miller's Ronin. I'm going to go through that and see if I can find a name.
All right, go for it.
I've never actually read this. I got given this as a present.
I hope it's not too graphic.
Okay, there's Sawa. There's a Sawa Corporation.
Sawa.
As S-A-W-A. Okay, give us a surname.
Yeah, Sawa. Yep.
All right, let's find another surname. Sawa McDonald.
Sour McDonald.
Sour McDonald. There you go.
Perfect.
Out of the Ronin book.
Fabulous. So Sour McDonald. Fantastic. Well, thank you for that suggestion. All right. So what do we need? It's D100.
We need a few things, I think, as we go through. But let's first off, D100. Why don't you roll first then? Or why don't you roll one of the 10s and I'll roll the other 10? How about that?
Sure. Hang on. I'm just gonna.
Foley? Bit of Foley for everyone at home. I say that every time I get dice out. If anyone watches me on on Twitch, I will, every time I get my dice out, that's a nice bit of Foley for you at home. Because as if someone wants to record this and use it for their own shows.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm doing the 10s then. Yeah?
You do the 10s, I'll do the 100s then. Okay, cool. Right. All right.
Oh no, the units.
I do the units. That's what I mean. Sorry.
Don't worry. I think that's why I was double checking. Okay, so
cool.
The 10s is 9, so 90.
95.
So this is the homelands.
Homelands. So we're in Xhorhas in eastern Wyandir. So that is the Kryn Dynasty or the Zarith Critril. Now I think the Kryn Dynasty, the Zarith Critril is the sort of wastes, or we can have the Kryn Dynasty. Should we flip a coin for that?
Yeah, definitely. So that's interesting. So like Kryn Dynasty over the Xhorhas, there's sort of a drow hierarchy that comes over with the Bright Queen and has a very interesting history as well.
Yeah, I quite like that. Okay, so we'll flip one, which would be Kryn Dynasty. So we're in the Kryn Dynasty. So Asawa McDonald is from the Kryn Dynasty. Okay. Right,
and then on to background. So what have we got here then?
We've got the Player's Handbook backgrounds, basically. I think there's a few from others, so they've got...
So they're slightly adapted, I think. It's just like, so it's Explorer's Guide to Wildemount, as I was like trying to work out which book it was. But so some of them are like, this is what this is in this one. So that's what it is. So
do you want to give us a D20 then for our background?
Oh, of course I can. Are you ready for this bit of Foley?
Yeah.
A 15.
15. A sailor? Or a sailor?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we're a Xhorhas sailor. I love it already. Good.
Yes.
I'm in it.
Opposite side of the sea. Okay, so what's next then?
All right, we need social status relationship. So this is basically your background term as your place in the world. In the strict hierarchy of the Dwendalian Empire, a family with poor social status is worth less than the soil they till, while a family of great renown enjoys all the privileges of high society. So it's kind of saying that's the differences in different ones. But each nation views people's backgrounds according to its cultural values. Based on your character's background, think about your social status within the context of the details of your homeland presented below. Then use the social status relationships table to determine how many allies and rivals you'll roll for later on in this section. So I think it's like we've got our social status, which
so we have sailor, aren't we?
Sailor, and then we've got if you're in the Kryn Dynasty, you have one ally.
One ally. Ooh, excellent. Ally. That makes sense. Okay. You kind of need all the friends you get in the Kryn Dynasty.
It's very true. So, yes, I think that, and then in Eastern Wyandir, sort of, it talks a bit about each like how the relationship status works. I think, according with us, a person's background is less in the Kryn. A person's background is less important than the experiences they've accumulated, particularly for those who have begun walking the sacred path known as consecration. Nonetheless, even though the most enlightened society can't help but look down upon its lower citizens and sneer at its haughty elite, once all beings are beloved by the Luxon, perhaps these ills of society will be purged once and for all. So the Luxon is that special magical device they have, which allows them to live forever, basically.
Yes.
Which we haven't talked about, have we, on this?
No. We'll quickly talk about it. So so you'll see obviously the big picture of it on the book.
Yes.
It's sort of this dodecahedron, which again plays a quite important part in the second series as well. And this idea that it's a Luxon beacon, and these sort of artifacts are found and. Apparently, and I didn't realise this, so more for me is that if somebody who's attuned to it dies within 100 miles of it, they are sort of reincarnated in a new body, but that soul is sort of kept there. And this whole Kryn Dynasty is based on this sort of thing, where the souls sort of join, and you can relive your life several times and go through this consecration. I'm never going to say that right. Process.
Consecution, yeah.
But and it's so in my head, it's how like elves live forever, but they just regain all these memories. Oh, it's a bit like there's a place in something in Star Trek Discovery that's just done that as well, and now I can't remember.
Oh, is there? Oh, I haven't seen the latest series.
Oh, I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's somebody who regains the memories of all their past lives and stuff like that, or people that have lived this
It's a very Star Trek thing, isn't it?
It is. But what's interesting about it, which sort of is mentioned later, and spoilers in case that comes up, obviously. At some point you might be affected by like rejecting this idea or just been living so many lives that you can't tell what is what anymore, and so you go mad. And the Bright Queen, who is the leader of the Kryn Dynasty, has started showing signs of this, so the whole council has been very protective of her because obviously she is the leader, and they're in this big war against King Bertrand, who is of the Dwendalian Empire. Can't show any weakness, so it's a very interesting thing, is that idea of like your political leader, your the sort of your figurehead is falling ill. What do you do? How do you replace them? Which again, if you look at the certain current climates recently in political things, if you see stuff like I'm going to say like Germany, for example, there was a whole thing last year or the year before, I don't know if you remember Angela Merkel, who was taken ill a few times. She like couldn't stop shaking and stuff, and there was always questions about like, can she continue if she's still in office and stuff, and obviously she's now been voted out, or as someone else is taking over from her position. But it's that sort of thing, and it's happened on Doctor Who as well. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but like Harriet Jones becomes Prime Minister, and then she's like, oh, do you not think she looks tired? She looks a bit unwell. And then her whole power is just crippled as a result, because they're like, oh, she can't make decisions because she's not well. So it's that idea of like, you got to protect these people, even though it's a part of their thing. So yeah, interesting side note. So again, fascinating. I thought the Kryn Dynasty was really, really interesting. So yeah, 100%. Really cool. Anyway.
All right, we need a settlement then in the Kryn Dynasty. So we need to figure out where we are. Like, it gives us then one of these cities they had. So do you want to roll us should we do a D100 again?
Yes, I'll roll the 10s.
Okay.
Roll the units. Sorry, I've just lost my D10. Oh no, I'll pick it up one. That's a 9 again.
And a 0, so 90. Rothold, which they do go to. Mm-hmm. Can I open that? It doesn't just like. I thought it'd be really.
That's the one thing about D&D Beyond is you go, it's lit up. Can I click on it?
Sometimes it does, and then sometimes it doesn't. We could.
Not this one. Let's have a quick look. Go for it.
I'm gonna see if I can open it really quickly. Give me. There you go.
Hey.
Population 88,000. 30% humans, 50% dark elves, 15%. Yeah.
So that's quite good that you've opened it as well, because then the next bit is race, so you can determine your character's race or lineage by consulting this section. So you can either roll the percentile dice, because obviously it's been broken up like that, or you can just choose, which I think is quite nice. So again, you could just be coming up with the concept for your character, but now you've got the home settlement stuff, like looking at the stats or the population stuff, and I was like, so it makes sense that you would be this, but also at the same time you don't have to choose it. But I thought actually that's quite helpful. Instead of picking race first, it's like later on. So quite cool.
No, it's cool, and it works because it's near the Blight Shore, so we can sort of that makes sense, and you can figure out, it's
that works out really well.
Yeah, so maybe it works well. It's got a dockside, so that kind of works. We're a sailor in the Blight Shore, so that
do we want to work out the race then? So do you want to roll for it? So if you go back to your tab, the Rothole tab.
Oh yes,
because you had it there.
Yes, here.
It's okay. Sorry.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, we are. Right,
okay.
then we can.
You're doing a lot of the heavy lifting. I'm just there going, do this. So
So what, do you want to just roll for the main ones that are there? So
yes, I think so.
Not the other races. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
But if you look, so it's by percentage. So obviously, if you roll.
Okay, so let's do that then. Okay, right, so you roll the.
I'll roll the 10s. So the 10s is a 2.
3, 23. So we're 23. A human.
Hooray!
Okay, we're a human.
Sarwald MacDonald is a human. So there you go.
There we are. Okay, fine, cool. Right, so then we have the family. The size of your hotel is part of the size of your family. So villages in Wildemount are predominantly rural. So
we're a city, aren't we?
Yeah, we are a city. So our family size. Let's roll a D.
D100 again.
D100 again. Let's see, we've got
3.
And a 939. So 39. We're in the two numbers of parents.
Yeah.
We need 2d4. I'm gonna roll a d4 and I'll roll a d4.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 on this side.
4 plus.
Whoa.
So that's 6 siblings.
6 siblings. So 2 parents and 6 siblings. Oh,
Jeez.
that already has a really cool.
Yeah.
Like instantly, like here's the family unit you have. You're like, oh bloody hell! Instantly to me, I'm like, I'm the youngest or I'm
Yes.
the oldest, right? That's literally what you have, and then you have to put names. I actually quite like that. So you don't. It's not like you can always fiddle with these stats as well. But it's like, here's the family unit. You've got 6. You have 6 siblings. You have to. Yeah, like that's a cool thing to play with. So instantly you have
cool.
like.
Should we roll
connections.
a d6 to see which number we are? Come on, let's really randomise this.
Oh, you do it. Because I've been
Okay,
rolling lots of
fine.
10s. So go for it.
It's a 5 with the 5th child.
Now we have a younger sibling that we have to take care of.
I feel like we were the youngest and we were the special for a long time. You know, the little, like the one that was really the baby, and then they had another one.
That just to
And then
really stab
that
you in
was
the heart.
really, really cute.
But you realise now that youngest child is going to disappear, and you're going to have to go find it. Or
And that's why you've sailed the seas trying to.
there you go. They ran away from home. There you go. There we go. Oh.
There we go. Okay, so that's your family.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get to choose. You can choose the gender age of them, but you've got powerful family relationships. So.
Yes.
So it lets you choose one. So we need another D100 roll.
So it says so your first honor same family. So sometimes you hit. They let's roll a D3, and this is a number of powerful relationships. Let's do 1. Let's just make it easier for ourselves. So we'll pick 1. So all right, I'll roll the 10s.
Oh, it doesn't matter because it's because it is basically 10 as well. It's an 8. So whatever you rolled would be the number. Yeah. What did you roll?
So I got a 3.
So 38. So it's 31 to 40.
You uncover a secret about this family member, whether a tiny embarrassment or a life-changing scandal. They now seek to unveil your dark secret. You gain 1 rival. Well, that's instantly an older sibling somewhere.
Yes, the older sibling is up to no good.
Yeah. So currently we have 1 ally and 1 rival. When this rival is somewhere in the family, and this ally, I think we can come to that in a second. But already you have these things picking up. I love it. It's just
this is the story. This is just story just building together, isn't it? So then, you get the ally relationships then. So this is the other one. So this will be our helpful person.
Okay, I'll go on 8.
85. So. You and this person were affected by powerful magic, and now you both share a telepathic connection that functions while you were within 1 mile of each other.
That's pretty cool.
I like that.
Hey,
Maybe that's the young child, the younger one.
The younger
sibling.
Oh, I like that, yeah.
All right. The older sibling was dabbling in dangerous magics. We caught them trying to enact some sort of dark ritual. Okay?
Yeah.
Whilst doing that, we get caught up in the wild magic sprays going on. Suddenly we knock heads and wake up. The older brother's disappeared, run away from home, and we both can speak telepathically.
Yeah.
You as the sailor set off to find the older brother, to take them to see where they've gone, bring them home, say it's okay, or find out if they're doing bad.
Yes.
But you have to leave the younger one behind because they're too young. And then later on, guess who's going to get kidnapped?
What? No!
Yes, the younger one's going to get kidnapped by the older one. You're going to have to come back. You're going to have to save them. The family's going to be in peril.
You're going to have to recruit the other 3 to come with you. To be like, we need to save our sibling.
That's goodness. This is it. Okay.
We've done it. We don't need Tal'Dorei or Wildemount. We've made our...
Yeah, this is it. Good. Coming to you as Critical Role-esque episode campaign 4.9. Yeah, we'll do that. Okay, cool. That's that one. So we need another rival. All right, I was just saying we don't need another rival, do we?
No, so I guess because we've kind of... Because obviously we've made the rival from our family members. So I guess if you had more than 1 rival...
I see.
Then you could do this one. So there's another table for that, which is pretty cool.
And then you can give your ally and rivals some identity. So you can give them... Oh, should we make out what their older brother's turned into?
1,000%. Although it's going to be something really like mundane, because I can see on there you got bloody cultist and fanatic and stuff.
Yeah.
But I got an 8 again.
Oh, okay. It's going to be either a mage or a noble or an assassin, so it could be good. 6. Noble.
Noble. Ooh, interesting.
So they've gone off and become pretending to be a noble.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They are using some sort of enchantment magics. They've killed the noble, they've put them in the basement and they're pretending and living out their life in secret as this noble.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, in the city.
Oh yeah, using their connections and stuff.
In the Kryn Dynasty's not Nicodranus, what's it called? Nordranus.
Oh, you're asking the wrong person. I can't remember.
Gordranus. Which is always confusing me because there's Nicodranus and then Gordranus.
But that's true. Because you can imagine this noble obviously it's got influence in the Kryn Dynasty, but maybe he's trying to do some political stuff with like the Cerberus Assembly, because obviously with the magic, with the
Dunamancy. Yeah, maybe he's been dabbling in the Dunamancy. That's where it went wrong, and then he's now thinking, gonna take this.
That idea, almost like I need more of this. Is that idea of the greed and stuff we were sort of talking about before? This getting bigger and bigger and bigger until maybe, man, can you imagine if they turned into a lich or something at the end and you had to stop this final fall? Oh, wow, we're getting really into this. I love it.
Okay, we're doing it. This is it.
But with this, so with the noble stuff, you gain one fateful moment. So what are fateful moments?
What are fateful moments? Here we go. Name vengeance, seeking retribution. We've made our fateful moment because in a way, but come on, let's do it.
Well, you roll the d20 because I rolled the last d20.
Okay, fine. Let's roll a d20. Let's make it a good one. Come on.
Come on.
A 3.
A 3. So you got a mysterious stranger gave you a gift that saved your life whilst you were lost in the wilderness. Roll on the ally and rival identity table to determine the identity of the stranger. Then roll on the magic item table to determine the item. If you roll an edible item, you roll again. Ooh, okay. So tell you what, if you roll on the rival and identity one, I'll roll on the magic table.
Okay, fine. I'll roll the D100. I'll roll 2, so it's 47. So it's a guard.
And I rolled an 18. So that is it's a potion of fibre, so that's a consumable. Let me roll again. Let's see, 60. 60 is a spell scroll. Roll again, because there's a consumable. 13. That's a potion of fibre. Move it around. You know what? I'm just gonna pick one.
Just pick one now. It's not rolling for you on 3.
I tell you what. I will pick a drift globe. So this idea of light, so you always see where you're going. So yeah, a drift globe. If I look it up.
So a guard found us when we were trying on our search for this, for our evil brother.
Evil brother.
Yeah.
Evil
brother, younger sister.
We could always be true. I do like the fact we both went for older brother. Like
evil
confirmed.
Older brother.
Confirmed. And it could be anything there. But yeah, so we were on the lookout for our evil older brother who's kidnapped stuff, and maybe we got lost in like the grey wildlands.
Yes. And then this guard found us, gave us this light, saved our life.
Because we wouldn't have been able to see in the dark because we're human as well. So here is a little light thing to lead the way. So
fantastic. Okay, cool. And then favourite food.
Yes. So that's just the one thing I absolutely love about this is that it's like, okay, so you do all the serious stuff. Here's some story stuff. But what is your favourite food? You're like,
but it's so important. It's so important. Okay, go on. Do you want to roll for our favourite food, which is? So on the Eastern Wyanders, we need D8.
D8. Okay. All right. I hope it's good. It's a 2.
It's Yuyandal, grilled yuyo, a zucchini-like vegetable that grows in Roshona's sunless gardens.
Spice and rice. Actually, you know what? I am a big fan of zucchini. So
so am I.
Oh, you know what? Sort of sidebar to this. We need to do like the cooking D&D, but we've done it before on DM's book club. But we could always here's us making our version
I'll make some of it.
We could be like, how did it go? Cut to Hamilton's kitchen. Cut to my kitchen.
Fire! And then you see quickly in the background.
I'm just ordering from Domino's. Like,
yeah, exactly. Just on the internet, just
please.
Oh, here's one I made earlier.
All right, that's definitely something we're going to do at some point when we have time and possibly. I can
set up the camera in my kitchen.
Yeah, same. All right, what else have we got for creating?
Mysterious secret, I think is, and then we've got. Prophecy. So mysterious secret. Go on, give us I did last night 20. You give me a D20.
All right, and then you can do the prophecy stuff. Okay, so this one we're going. It's a natural 1.
Years ago, my best friend came to me in the middle of the night and gave me a key that glowed with an icy blue light. I never saw that friend again.
Ooh, interesting. So again, you could have that whole thing about going to the frozen norths, perhaps, and maybe a bit more like, maybe it's a bit like Sting from Lord of the Rings, where it glows when only certain things are nearby. So like, excuse me, I know we've not talked about it, but there's like the Hollowed Ones, which is a new sort of enemy. It feels a bit like the White Walkers, that's where bodies are reanimated but the soul's left, and then just a little part of them still remaining, and they just go around. I
Maybe
think
that's their soul.
Ooh. Oh.
And now they're a Hollowed One.
And they were just, they give this.
And actually, it was more like a dream, but you kind of they kind of came to you in the dream, and you woke up with this key, but actually they didn't. So they came to you in the night, but really that was their soul, and you need to then find them, the Hollowed, and then give them back their soul, so they can.
Yeah, give them back the soul, the key, and.
Yeah. Oh. So like maybe they got caught under some sort of spell that then, and in their dying moments, or the moment when their soul was ripped from their body, they came to their closest friend, which was you. And handed you, and it was left as a trinket, which was like a key you had nearby or something like that. That just became this icy blue key.
I love it. Oh, and already the fact, this has taken us like 30 minutes or so just to chat through it, but because it's so exciting, and I just think 100%. There's something amazing sort of things where you're like, and you just have all these little ideas. And now we have like almost like a full character, obviously, and none of it is stat related really. It is all like, here's the background, here's all the stuff of it. And I just...
We use I don't know if it's okay to say, but we use the better backstories thing on our on the Dragon's Duel. We've done some episodes with that, and that's a card game that gives you prompts. And I must admit, that's just a card game that gives you just like words, and sometimes you have a D10 table. But to be honest, anything that gives you a prompt, you realise, I think anyone has got the capability to, you just need a concept basis. You need something to work from. And once you've got, like, even if you just pick random words about how, I think you can come up with some great things. This is a fantastic resource. I'm not going to say that this has got so much more detail than the other one.
Yeah. And I think, even just like, even if you only take part of it, because obviously the settlement stuff, that's just like, obviously that is very much into the Critical Role world and stuff like that. But if you have your own worlds and you're building up stuff and you go, okay, the continent you're on, it splits up into 4 regions. Here they are. They're all vaguely different. Let's build up, and then you could just build up the settlements and stuff like that, and they go, okay. I just think, it's just nice because then, here's your hometown. And it even says, actually, if you're like, if you are a traveller, or if you're a nomad, or even a sailor, it's like, here, you could always roll 3 times. Here's the last 3 places you were in. So you don't necessarily have to have an attached home. And I just think that's really cool. Yeah.
And I think the thing with the randomness as well is that if you pick them, that's perfectly fine. But I do think what the randomness does is that it just puts things into your brain that you wouldn't go for. That's what I love about it as well. That they're just not there, because we've all got cultural influences and references that we have, and so you can sort of, and you do just get into your own spaces. But these things bring out things that you just never know, and you'll always bring your own stuff into it anyway.
Hey, I'm back. Okay, what were we talking about before I got cut out? I think you were saying one last thing before I got cut out. So
I can't remember. It was so long.
I'm sure you'll edit on you anyway. Whilst I think I
think I will. I'll figure it out. And I think the point was, it was we were just talking about that the soul. I think that was it in this gem, and I think that was all I can remember we were at last time. So we're going to have a prophecy now, which is going to influence our future. So that's your turn to roll.
That's my turn. So this is interesting. So these are like, obviously you like write down 3 aspirations or goals that you want for your character and what you want to achieve over the course of the campaign. So again, it's another sort of session 0 thing, which I think more and more people are starting to do now that there's more of a storytelling role into this. And so, these prophecy goals there's like immediate goal, a long-term goal, or a goal to conclude your character arc. So we're going to do just one, I guess, aren't we? So we roll it.
It's very interesting because first time I returned to D&D, so not when I did 2E, but when I came back to 5E, my GM, again, great GM, who is a game designer generally, so I don't know why, that might be why, and had a very realised world themselves. We had a session 0 and really had to go through sort of backstory stuff and make the place that we were from and stuff. So it's interesting that I always thought that was the norm until I met the people going, that's actually, no, a lot of people just go for it. And I'm like, it's just weird how different.
I guess. Hang on. Let's do this bit. But I have a point I should come back to. So I'm going to roll the d20. Sorry.
Let's go.
It's a 7.
I will become a hero of the war between the Dwendalian Empire and the Kryn. I will be haunted by the atrocities I witness on the battlefield.
Well, that's interesting, coming from the Kryn Dynasty as well. That's pretty...
Well, I think maybe this is it then. So this is your journey. Evil brother, you find out, is a bit, actually, they're becoming a little bit like Essex. So I'm going to try and change it up a bit maybe, but they're dealing with some, I'm going to say necromantic magics.
So like a huge, like a broken away branch of the Cerberus Assembly.
And maybe this is the relationship to the friend whose soul was taken as well. That's gonna be the twist, that it's all connected.
Oh, it's all connected.
Yeah, and that's why they came to you. The key unlocks something specific. But in the midst of this, you're trying to search for this necromancer who's trying to raise some. It maybe go as far as raising a deity, turning himself into a lich. You get caught up in the battlefield, and you end up having to take on more than you realise that there's bigger stakes here. My family back in I forget where we're from now. Rothold are going to be torn asunder if we don't sort this out, and you become hero of a battle.
But what about the youngest sibling? I think we're going to do a Katniss Everdeen where Prim dies. I think your sibling, the youngest sibling,
whilst
dies
you're on the battlefield, that's when you take your eye off and that's what haunts you, is because you've taken your eye off your initial goal, which is to find this evil half brother. And in that time when you're off saving the world, and maybe you get a bit too in love with the idea of being a hero, you get some pride involved.
Absolutely.
This sense of like accomplishment,
this Time Lord victorious. Yeah,
and then you realise that in that intervening time, whilst you're becoming a general, captain or whatever, that's when your family actually loses, and then it's a quest. That's where the key comes in, because the key will unlock another soul, and you bring back your sibling, and that's how your friend sacrificed himself, and they knew this was going to happen. They saw a prophecy themselves, and it all ties in, and that's the end of the story.
Wow, you have to get that through the campaign though. But I love that idea. That's what again. That's something that you're setting up as a DM, thinking like.
Well, that's the thing. It's with the DM, isn't it? Like I'm like, okay, that's how I'm making this character look.
Yeah, I think, and you can offer it there, and then again, it's that sort of collaboration. It's like, oh yes, and that not so sure. I think those are like perfect breadcrumbs. Look at that. That's so cool. All this stuff. And so we love our tables, and we love this sort of thing. I think this whole this heroic chronicle and this prophecy stuff, really interesting and really cool to do like a backstory for your campaign. Now, you were saying just now about this, your session 0, really in depth. You created your own hometown and stuff like that. Really cool. I saw someone tweet recently, I won't name them because and they said they don't like having their characters or themselves, their players, doing work. They come to have a good time on the game. They're happy to help, but if they're asked too many questions, they're like, no, I don't want to do the work. I find that's really interesting, because as my sort of play style is that I usually ask questions. I usually say, to get people in they're getting warmed up and stuff, I go, okay, what's one thing you spot on your journey there that you go, you notice that's something different. It doesn't impact the story, but it's like, I notice that because my character's like this, and it's just like gets them to think in that character. So something like that, what you're saying, that really in-depth character building stuff, I don't know, like for me, I'm like, I'm all about that. I'd love that sort of thing, because I know that we're going on to a bigger campaign and you're exploring all the stuff that you've created. But if you're a new person who's just trying it out, they'll be like, oh, that's a little bit much for me. So I find it really interesting. What do you think about that? This idea about the player GM workload in creating stuff?
I mean, so in my campaign that I ran at the beginning, so we started a new campaign at the beginning of the lockdown, and I had, so with the same people, with the GM that had the session 0, so I sort of took on what they did and sort of said, okay, like I used the same format he had, which is a good series of questions that was like, where are you from, who are you, what's your, like, there was some, I can't remember them off the top of my head, but I could find them, but I used the same thing, but one of them came to me and said, you make it up for me. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not sure about this. I'm not a writer. I don't know. So I was like, okay, fine. So I made them a clone of a wizard that escaped, and they have no memory of it. and then
Oh.
suddenly the wizard's coming after them to get them back.
Amazing. It was like, well,
And that came
free
yeah.
reign.
Yeah, exactly. You gave me free reign. You're gonna have to deal with this because I'm gonna force some RP on you. Because if you're not gonna do it, then
How interesting.
It was fun, and actually they really went with it, and actually having the freedom with one character was actually quite good. It was quite nice to have that sort of to create a BBG that no one was aware of from their backstory. Because I love to have it all tied into their backstory, the story that I'm creating. But it was nice to have one that was tied to a backstory that was a secret still for them in some respects. So
I like that. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I think that I definitely, for me, I like a bit of both, but I quite like that. If somebody was really struggling, you're like, all right, give me some literally anything, and I will make something for you, and obviously we can tweak it from there. And I think because obviously as we're very creative stuff. Anyway, but yeah. Anyway, so I just thought that was really interesting, and
it is. I think, and I'm not saying you have to. Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. You don't have to do it, and if your players aren't up for it, then perfectly fine. Like it's the game is open. I don't think any of us have ever said you have to play D&D this way, because I never would, because there's about a billion ways to cut this cheese, and it's a billion ways to cut this cheese.
No, but it's true. And the Critical Role is only one way
term.
of doing it. I think before we end, like I said, obviously we've barely scratched the surface, but I did, because you sent me something. You were like, I'm going to do this. And I was like, oh, I guess I'll do one as well. So
oh yes,
let's talk about the gifts of divergence. So we kind of talked about a bit about this idea of the prime deities, the betrayer gods and stuff. And this
vestiges of divergence. So I'll quickly find it in the Wildemount campaign here.
Please do. So yeah, essentially, so we sort of talked about this big war and stuff, and then the people of Exandria asked for the help from the deities, but when obviously that didn't go well, and they had the calamity, and the prime deities sealed themselves away along with the betrayer gods beyond the veil, they gave out artifacts, or they gave out articles during the battles and stuff to be like, here to my champions,
acolytes, basically their main champions. Yeah, that was it.
That's it. And it gives some advice on how you would create it in general. Now, we've done on DM's Book Club before making magic items and artifacts before, but obviously this is quite nice because a little twist into it. Like, it gave some really cool examples and stuff, and like, hey, take one of the gods, think about what you want to do, and then do the following process. So you created your own vestige of divergence. So do you want to?
And you created. Oh well, actually, yours comes up first.
Oh, does it? Oh no!
So,
oh no!
Well, no, I could quickly just. No, you don't look. Yes, I made a vestige of divergence. So I made the cloak of the Jaeger. Right. So I saw this as the hunt. It could be the Wild Mother, but it was sort of similar to the Dawnfather's. I forgot the name of the wolf that sort of protects the well, but I see it as you could implement this to any of the sort of druidic or ranger style deities if you so wished. So this is our little I did a little bit of graphic design.
Did some drawing, guys. There's some bloody drawing. He sent me that picture. I was like, well, I have to create one now.
Yeah, I did a little drawing of a cloak. So the idea is that so I'll read my little bit of text.
Yes, please.
This legendary cloak worn by each huntress of a long lost sect that kept at bay that which lurked deep in the darkest corners of the lands holds an affinity to the wilds it once crept. So it has and then it has 3 states. So each of these have 3 states. They have a dormant state, which is you find when you find it, an awakened state, which is so as you level up, but also as you gain attunement in a more philosophical way, or however
a familiar way or something. But yes, you use it more and more.
Yeah, or even you might reach at a climactic moment. You're in a moment of peril, and somehow it awakens for you. But yeah, so it has these 3 states, and then an exalted state is normally when you're about level 12, 13, I think it was, and 8 was the awakened. So the dormant one is the bearer gains advantage on all survival and nature checks. So it's kind of a, it's a good hunter's cloak, very good if you're going to track things. So then the awakened state, a quickened flash of the cape as it moves through the air with a lightness of feathers and a sharpness of steel. Before I could even react, I'm sort of going into single person there. It's very badly written.
Oh, no.
This is done in an hour, okay?
Yeah.
Once awakened, the following advantages are bestowed. You gain advantage on all initiative checks. This is quite OP, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
You gain +2 to your dexterity score, so that's basically +1 modifier. And then you also add +10 feet to your movement speed. So I see this as, again, it's this sort of hunter, you're going to be quick off the bat, and I have the idea is that the cape starts moving a bit like Doctor Strange as it kind of moves a bit for you. So it's sort of, so that's why it sort of moves. Did I even react? It kind of gets me out of the way. It gives you that additional dexterity. And then in its exalted state, it now holds itself aloft in the air and flows on currents untold, twitching at sounds even I can't hear. I wonder now if it's I who wears the cape or if it is but the other way round. Da, da, da. Yeah, I know. So again, I had an hour. So this was once exalted, you get this. You can no longer be surprised because it will
like, it's there. Points. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. +3, which will mean you probably get yourself up into another modifier stream, and then dexterity. And I have this one, which I sort of took from, which you didn't talk about, the campaign homebrew rules, which in Tal'Dorei, but this sort of idea of being able to resolve yourself to keep. And I used this, I tried to make a Jaeger class before, and I kind of had this as well, which is that once you have a quarry, you can treat a short rest as a long rest, once per day for your con score -10 days.
Ooh, that's pretty
right?
good. Yeah.
So once you've completed your quest, you will then gain the number of exhaustion points equal to the times you use this feature and must rest for that number of days per exhaustion point to overcome them. So that you can resolve yourself to just take a quick cat nap for 3 days, let's say, maybe, or whatever your con modifier is. But at the end of it, you're going to need to sleep.
Otherwise you are exhausted. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So it's that. So I sort of see the idea that, and I think that would be a useful thing, like the ability just to get rid of some of those short rests to make them gain some. If it's a ranger as well, they're not that much.
Yeah, definitely. That's so cool, and I love that. Like again, that it really ties into the story and that idea that you attune to it, and again, lots of flavour in there. So I thought that's really really cool. So I saw that and I was like, I'm going to do something completely different.
Yeah, and you're going to go. You went for. What was it?
They're called the Betrayer artifacts.
Arms of the Betrayers, that's it.
So again, going back to these sort of lesser gods that have been sort of left in Exandria after the Betrayer gods have sort of left. And so I was looking through and I was thinking to myself, what do I find horrible? And obviously it is spooky season. So I was like, Vesh, this idea of like almost like a fey-like creature, but it's undying, so all these zombie stuff. And her little section is pretty gross. This idea that she's like again, is looking for her mate and will consume them. And
she's married to the character in season 1.
Is she? Well, there you go.
He's forgotten his name.
He's
played by Will, who was in.
No way.
King child actor Will
Wheaton.
No, not Will. No.
The other guy.
Yes.
We're very bad at this. I had not realised that. Anyway, the point is that this idea of like zombie-esque type thing. So and her symbol. Kishore. There you go.
Thank you.
This idea that this idea of eyes and this claw stuff. So I came up with the Ring of Vesh. And looking at it, the Betrayer properties, artifact properties, it doesn't really say too much for the vestiges per se, but in Betrayer properties, it says it's similar to the same manner of it, essentially. There's a dormant state, there's an awakened state, and there is a exalted state. So in this one, it said, like, okay, for the dormant state, it has one minor beneficial property and one detrimental one, which, weirdly, I don't have up right now, but I will get that up. Sorry, boring. Whilst I open my own, your document. In dormant, the minor benefit is whilst attuned to this artifact, you can't be charmed or frightened. Pretty cool if you're at a lower level. The detrimental one, though, is when you're attuned to it, animals within 30 feet of you are hostile. So again, in my head, it's like that idea that they can sense something's right. You know, when dogs bark at evil things and vampires, I was like, yes. That's what I was thinking, like, oh, something's not right, so everything against you. When it's awakened, the minor benefit is that you get a 3rd level spell, the DM chooses you, and you can cast it as many times as possible. Again, on a roll 1 to... Oh, no, roll it... Sorry, I got this wrong. Roll a d6 on a 1 to 5, you can't cast it again until the next dawn, but it's like a free spell. And of course I was like, animate dead. That makes sense as a 3rd level spell. The minor detrimental property of the Awakened one, though, is when you're attuned to this artifact, your flaw is amplified in a way that is determined by the DM. So I'm thinking this idea of like this emotionless, empathetic way around dying itself. Like it's so you might not go save your friend who's just fallen down.
Oh, yeah,
so you're like,
sort of just like
just like
ambivalence to death.
Exactly. Because just like, or be willing to put yourself. You're not going to run away. It's like, what's the point?
What's the point? Yeah.
So, but of course, it could be depending on the floor as well. So anything like that. So anything lacking emotion, I thought would be quite good. And then the exalted one, which you only get a major beneficial sort of property. You get a level 7 spell, similar to that previous one. And I was like, Finger of Death.
Of course it was.
Of course it was, because it's an awful spell, but it's such a cool spell.
It is such a cool thought. And there's a little picture of it there. I did a little sketch.
I love it.
Of an eye in there. But what I suggest we do is we're going to tidy this up.
Yes.
And we'll put it on the DM's Guild. Yeah,
Why
don't we just do that, right?
Yeah.
We'll just put a little vestige, sort of 2 vestiges on there. We'll put it free, pay what you want.
Pay what you want, yeah.
Pay what you want, but you can go on there. We'll put a nice little cover on it.
Yeah.
And if you want DM book club.
Yeah, let us know if you ever use it. That'd be cool.
Yeah, and we'd love to see if you use it. And yeah, just go find it there. And if you use the link, there you go, www.dragonsduel.co.uk/DM's Guild, all one word. That's our affiliate link, and that means if you buy anything on there, we get a little boost. But if you just go and get this pay what you want, just do that, and it's always nice.
Look, I mean, amazing. Like, we've created so much content for us, and also had a great time. Was there anything else we wanted to quickly talk about?
There is one thing I want to talk about, because breaking news today when we recorded this, which is just a week before, but look at this page. Critical Role Call of the Netherdeep, the first major adventure set in Critical Role's World of Exandria, has just been announced. Literally 20 minutes before we started recording this, I went to D&D Beyond and it comes up saying, by the way, pre-order it now. And I was like, what?
So yes.
How blooming coincidental. But available March 15th.
So this is very interesting. So instead of like an actual campaign setting, it feels, you were saying that it was like new adventures and creatures and things. So it's all and obviously it's with the run up to Marquette and stuff like that. So it's already been developed and stuff. So very interesting. I'm very excited.
I wonder if it is the same story or not. But at least it says it definitely is going to introduce a bit more of the Waste of Zorhaus, which we did see a bit of in the last campaign, and there is some in Wildemount. But also the continent Marquette will also be introduced, as well as Ankarel, which is the main city, Oasis city there, which is where Jump. I've forgotten his name now. There's too many names available.
There's too many names. Oh, yeah. And there is actually. Sorry, I completely forgot this. So again, there's some incredible minor characters in both these books, and obviously they've got a really cool description of each one of them. And like if you go into like the Dwendalian Empire, here's like 5 NPCs that are quite important. So like the kings and stuff like that. What I will say though, and I've not seen any other book do this. I know probably Homebrew does it quite a bit. It gives obviously genders and alignments and stuff, but there is inclusions of non-binary and agender minor characters as well, which is quite cool. Like again, I know more recent books are saying like, hey, make it up, or or they can be whatever, and obviously giving that freedom. But to actually see that printed in a D&D book, I don't think I've ever seen that, and I was like, that's really cool actually. So I did mean to point that out earlier.
And I think Critical Role has been very good at trying to promote more of that sort of inclusivity into their shows, and I think that was one thing that I think actually it did really well for D&D. I can't say if that's the only one that was doing it. I don't know enough, but all I remember from it is thinking, this is playing actually really good, intricate characters that are not just your generic, binary characters.
Yeah, seeing characters portrayed in such ways, like obviously a positive light, and as being regular everyday things. I think that is so. It's just seeing that representation, and the same with diversity as well. I know Critical Role are making progress to try and be more diverse, because that's one of the things that has been leveled against.
No, there is that, and I'm not. Yeah, exactly. There are still diversity issues that need to be addressed, but I think at least in terms of sexuality has been definitely much more broadened to in that than other shows beforehand. So that's really positive. I'm going to give another recommendation out there. So again, if you're thinking, I want more shows that are diverse and stuff, I actually do want to promote Rivals of Waterdeep, which is an all-black POC cast, and what's really cool about them, so they're on their 11th season. It started like 3 years ago, and I must say so every time they do a season, it's always like 10 episodes for that. It's a different GM from one of the players. So it's rotating players and stuff there.
all of them are very good. Quite a few of them actually are on Into the Motherlands, which is their other sort of show as well. So I would highly recommend, if you want to see some interesting and different DMing from different GMs from each season, Rivals of Waterdeep for sure. I need to catch up because it's one of those ones that's really, really interesting. So again, if you're looking for a fix and you think, oh, not so sure about Critical Role because it's too long in episodes, their episodes are like 2 hours long, and you can dip in at any point at the start of the seasons because they do a great recap as well.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Oh, I have to check that out. There's so many good. There's so many.
I know it's not enough time. It's not enough time. But I think for now we'll put Tal'Dorei and Wildemount to rest. Thank you so much, Hamilton.
Thank you.
I'm actually so excited for season 3 now. I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm actually really excited because they're doing a new way of scheduling as well. They're going to do 3 episodes on, 1 episode off, like building in breaks. Very good. You don't having no DM burnout, etc.
Yeah.
All pre-recorded as well, which I also think is really good because, as you and I both know, it's so much easier to do stuff when it's pre-recorded.
Yes. Yeah, I think so, and I think I think also just as well DM burnout. I think it's nice just to have that break for everyone as well. Sometimes just to because they are big episodes, and you know, if you want to keep up with it as it's going along, having to every week find 3, 4, maybe 7 hours to watch it
to dedicate it. I do believe they're going to have something in the week off though, whether it's like a one shot or whether it's just other content. So that'd be really cool as well. But it's gonna be an exciting time, and I think whether you're just starting on your Critical Role journey or if you're a veteran like me and Hamilton, you're like, oh god, here we go again. It's good fun, and it's just a nice example of seeing how D&D has impacted not only the lives of these players and this DM, but also quite a lot of the community as well. Yeah. So
100%.
With all that out of the way, Hamilton, is there anything you'd like to plug? What's happening with Dragon's Duel?
Well, we would have finished, and we have finished now, season 2.
Woohoo!
We're going to be planning at some point we've got our Ultimate Dragon Supremes from each season now, and they are going to have a battle off in a game show at some point in October.
Nice.
But then we're just having some fun plans in the background that I can't quite say yes to what they are yet. But the only thing I can say is that the podcast of season 2 will finally be coming out.
Yay!
Because I have been really bad at it, and so I've recorded all my intros and outros. I've recorded all the bits for it. I just need to put it together and get it out there, and it'll be coming out on Mondays for the first part, which would be your body stuff, your strength, dex and con, and then on Thursdays with the mind stuff. So,
splitting it up, very clever.
Int, whiz, and charisma. And then for some of them on a Sunday, you'll get some backstory shows, like we mentioned earlier, and then the one-shots we did from season 1 and season 2. Later on.
Fabulous. So you're not missing out on any of that good Dragon Duel content.
Or you just go to the YouTube and watch it there because it's all there already.
Yeah, it's there as well. But also, if you're one of those people who's like, no, I like just listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Yes. No, do that, and please do.
Please do that. And
some of them you'll probably watch and then listen to, and then a couple of them have very visual heavy because we do Pictionary rounds. That's the only round that you will have that you'll probably be like, well, this is not. It's probably it does sound stupid when you listen to it as well, but you might just want to just go to the YouTube just for those. There's only like 3 episodes that happens in, but yeah.
Hey, I think you go to YouTube, watch it, and then go listen to it so the numbers are good.
Do that. Do that. Do both.
That. Forget Critical Role. Just Dragon's Duel.
Watch Dragon's Duel on repeat.
Well, speaking of
what
Spotify,
about you?
Yeah,
Fiona?
Speaking of podcasts, my name is Fiona. I run the What Am I Rolling podcast, a twice monthly RPG one-shot podcast. As always, it is going very, very well. I have written down what's coming up, so I'm not going to be floundering around for stuff. So on the 17th of October, we have the Ultimate RPG Backstory Guide, where basically I'm just going to go through some of the prompts. The person from the host, of One Shot Podcast, James D'Amato, he wrote 2 books, and it was quite.
You did them before, didn't you?
We did do them before, and I thought, why not do them on the other podcast where they might be also as successful? So we're going to have some of that, but then after that, on the 31st of October, and then the 14th of November, we'll have the release of Vert, basically an RPG system based on the books by Paul Noon or Jeff Noon.
I don't know these books. I've not heard them. I'll have to check them out.
Yeah, I think so. So they're based on that, but using the cipher system, which is a very straightforward system.
Yes.
Vert is essentially, if you imagine train spotting, but with cyberpunk elements to it, and then set in Manchester. So it's always really cool things put into one. And it was a lot of fun. We had Rob, who's on a podcast who I don't know, but I will definitely put in the show notes for this. Off the top of my head, I can't remember, but he was very, very good. He's from Manchester himself, so it was as someone who used to live in Manchester, I felt very, very at home. So I do check that out. So that will be out on Halloween and then the 14th of November. And then finally, of course, we have an offer code for Third Space Gaming, your local friendly game store in Burnley. If you want to get 10% off your first offer, you just put in the offer code DMBC into checkout, and you can be on anything you want, whether it's a new RPG book, whether it's new dice, if you want to do some more rolling and make some of your own heroic chronicles, whatever it is. So that's DMBC into checkout. And there we go. I think that's all the plugs. Oh.
I think that is all the plugs. Yeah, that's everything I've got to plug. That's all we do. But come back every week to see us here at on the Twitch channel. That's the other thing. If you're listening to this,
completely forgot we do this on Twitch.
It is on Twitch. That's the other one. So I have remembered one. If you do want to watch this live, or not, but you want to with a visual element,
live. Yes.
When we've got pictures, we're showing bits of the books that we're going through and our vestiges. You can see our pretty vestiges. You can find that on twitch.tv/dragons_jewel, and we're on a Thursday at 9 p.m. British time and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Mm-hmm. Apart from in a couple of weeks when it's all weird, but we'll just take it over that every time.
Just 9 p.m. at British time, so GMT or BST, but it will be GMT from Halloween onwards.
Exactly.
So,
there you go.
Yeah, and yes, and well, Hamilton, what's happening next week? It is Halloween after all.
It is Halloween, and so for that we are going to be looking at the Ghost Walk campaign. It is a very esoteric, not very well known 3E campaign guide. We talk about it really more from this very interesting theory that it has of the dead walk. When you die, you turn into a ghost, which is not like any other ghost, and they can sort of still exist in the world, but in this incorporeal form. And the land of the dead is a physical location that one can access and go to. So we talk all about that.
Yeah,
and how you might put that into your D&T campaign.
Exactly. No, it's very fascinating and really interesting as well. I'm sure we'll be doing lots more other sort of campaign settings from previous editions as well. Obviously, well, again, if you've watched this, because we've had the Future of D&D one, obviously the more settings being revealed and sent out and stuff. So who knows what other settings might suddenly reappear in 5th edition.
Exactly. So we might have to do more deep delves into those. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Well, that is next week. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, it is. Well, until next time, friends, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you soon. Love you.
Love you. Bye.